Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining in. Do you mind giving me a quick thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me okay? All right, we'll try this again. Just making sure everyone can hear me okay. If you don't mind giving me a quick thumbs up. Oh, great. Thank you so much. We'll give everyone a few more minutes to join in, and then we can go ahead and get started. All right. We'll go ahead and get started here tonight and let anyone who may be coming in late trickle in. So welcome. Thank you so much for attending my workshop. My name is Taylor Kirchwim. I'm going to be your host for this workshop, and I'm going to take product and distribution teams through building out an advertising revenue forecast using a freely available business model tool. And yes, you did hear me correct. You're going to get to take this tool away with you and use it freely outside of this workshop. So, one of the most critical questions that distribution teams have to answer and even often demonstrate internally when planning out a multi-platform distribution launch is how much money should we expect to earn? So hopefully by the end of this workshop and by using the model that we'll go through today, you'll be able to help answer this question. Here's the quick agenda for the workshop tonight. We're going to start with a quick market outlook, explain why this forecasting tool matters, and I'll spend the bulk of the time actually in the advertising revenue model tool, walking everyone through how to use it, make sure everyone's comfortable and can take it away at the end of this. And then we'll leave time for some Q&A at the end. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. There's a lot that we can get into when we're taking a look at the advertising market. To paint a quick picture, all trends are pointing upward for advertising spend, specifically in the video advertising segment. That's largely why we're here today, discussing how you might be able to forecast some of that advertising revenue opportunity within your own businesses. At a high level, video advertising is the backbone of media and entertainment industries. And we're seeing, in the United States that ad spend is expected to grow annually around 7% annually through 2024. And this stat is really market volume and growth specific to the United States. It's not necessarily taking into account any of the global distribution paths either. And research is showing that U.S. adults are actually more accepting and even prefer to stream television that has ad-supported content. And this preference in comparison is over subscription-based services. This might be attributed to a lot of the recent launches of these ad-supported streaming services. We're seeing Plex, Sports Tribal TV, which is a newer one over the last 10 days or so. And then you have, some of the more established players in that space, Zumo, Pluto TV, Tubi. So this is just becoming more accepting kind of in the industry that we're in. And, finally, just again, painting the broader picture, connected TV is surging in its share of the impression and ad spend. Specifically in the United States, we're seeing this growth. Some of that growth could be driven by ad buyers becoming more willing to pay that premium to reach these consumers. We're not as reachable anymore on those traditional TV ads with the traditional TV ads anymore. So cord cutters who aren't subscribing to cable or reachable that way. Those ad buyers may be more willing now to spend more in the connected TV space. So all this to say, and to summarize up, the market outlook, if you don't already, you should start to care and pay a little bit more attention to this video advertising segment, just based on market volume and annual growth trajectories that we're seeing. And you may also find through this forecasting tool that we'll go through today that advertising could be a great revenue supplement to your video business. So let's get into, why does this model matter anyway, and why should you build out an advertising revenue forecast? From the financial planning perspective, running a video business does require an investment in that content and technology, oftentimes before profit's realized. So by using this tool, hopefully you'll be able to have some more insight into future growth and just ultimately make smarter investments in this area. And also forecasting can allow you to maybe invest at a level that's more in line with your revenue and scale from there as your audience begins to scale. So this just allows you to build a little bit more of a sustainable business by understanding, where that level in line with your revenue is going. Forecasting also ensures that your team is aligned and prioritizations are also aligned. So we all know that content can be created at all different price points, from a creator-driven storytelling, to a full studio production. So finding the right content strategy that fits your forecasted model can help you drive some of those expenses one way or the other. And also, having the right content or technology strategy, meaning, you could build an out-of-the-box solution, you could have a fully custom solution, and those price points vary as well. So taking that into account when building out your expenses and that trajectory, and really just striking the right balance with the technology. So here's what we'll do today together. I'm going to teach you how to use the advertising revenue model. I'm going to explain the tabs and all of the key sections of the model so that you guys understand how to use it. And then we're going to input some key assumptions together as well live. This is meant to be interactive. I'd love to have everyone chime in the room chat or personally, just to interact and maybe, have take into account some of your assumptions that you may want to see. And then lastly, explore the results. I have a few questions that I want answered as part of this revenue model. I've outlined a few here, but again, would love to hear from you all. If you have questions that you would like answered as we're going through the revenue model, please feel free to interact, drop it in the chat so that we can make this an engaging workshop. All right, so now for the fun part, the actual model. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link since these slides aren't clickable. This is a link here. I'm going to drop the link of the actual model here in the room chat, and then I'll also click into it on my screen as well. But I'm going to go ahead and share this with everyone. Definitely would encourage everyone, click on this link that I just dropped, and so that you guys can follow along with us. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to kind of get in there, click on the link, and I'll also get situated and make sure that I'm sharing the revenue model myself on the screen. So give everyone a few minutes here. And for everyone who may be coming in late, we are in the process of transitioning over to the link that was just dropped into the chat. If you guys want to join in and follow along, I'll give everyone a few more minutes to click on the link and get situated in there. All right, cool. So I'm also sharing my screen in case you guys aren't in the link so that we can follow along. If you did click on the link or you're seeing my screen, you should be seeing the introduction tab. So again, the purpose of this document is to help forecast advertising revenue and expenses for launching a multi-platform video distribution strategy. And it's important to preface, like with any other financial modeling, that this is only as accurate as the numbers that you're putting in and some of the assumptions that you're making. So make sure that if you're inputting overly optimistic numbers, that you're aware that you're likely going to have inflated and unrealistic results here. So definitely do some research or use maybe what data you have. Maybe you're live on some of these platforms already. But, generally speaking, keep your assumptions on the conservative side. That'll just help build a very realistic case with attainable assumptions. So here are some of the key assumptions that we will want to have readily available, or that you would want to have readily available when you're inputting the data points into this model. So you're going to want to have your starting month. This is the month that you want to go live. Have that available. The hours of new content. So how many hours per month of new content do you plan to add? Your eCPM. So this is going to be effective cost per 1,000 impressions. To make it simple, this is going to be a blended rate. It's not going to be dependent on any type of ad sales channel. So it's going to be blended between any type of direct programmatic ad sales that you might have. We're also going to want to have handy ads per pod, your ad fill rate per hour, or an assumption there, hours watched per month. So again, you can factor in for just a single platform. You can blend and combine this number for a number of different platforms, but going to want to have the hours watched per month. And then last but not least, expenses. So this is going to be fixed costs as well as any variable costs that may incur. So you'll see here two tabs in the spreadsheet. There's the FAST model and the OTT model. The FAST model, or otherwise known as free ad-supported streaming television. These are your Pluto TVs, your Zumos, and Tubis of the world. And then the OTT model, we all know over the top. These are your boxes, dongles that you're plugging into your TV. So this is Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, etc. So those are the two tabs. And within each of these two tabs, you're going to have your key sections, 3 key sections. You're going to have an assumptions section. This is where we'll do the inputs that inform that time to break even calculation. And then we'll have the break even analysis section. This is a roll up of revenue and expenses, and it's going to be over a 12-month period of time. And it'll give you your calculation of time to break even. And then the last section just is a bit of a more expanded view of your revenue and expenses over a 12-month period. So again, you can dig in a little bit more from the break-even analysis and really go line by line in terms of your expenses and revenue. All right, so you'll see some basic instructions here. I'm going to start with gathering all of my key assumptions. So I created just a quick tab here. And if you want to go ahead and create your own or start to gather these key assumptions, I'm going to run through mine. So I have a video business. My business is called Intergalactic Sports Network. And my content and what I'm about is I'm an indie cyber channel, and I'm modeled after mainstream and cable network programming structures in the United States. So based on my company model and my type of content, I'm going to use the FAST model today and really walk through that model. It just fits my programming and where I'm going as a business. So I'm going to be focused on using the FAST model. And some assumptions that I've made that I know about my business is that I know that I plan to upload about 50 hours of new content per month and recycle that through. I have about 30-minute video assets, so I don't have long form assets. So I'm probably only going to get a pre-roll, and maybe 3 mid-roll ad breaks. We're typically seeing the mid-roll ad breaks at around every 7 to 9 minutes. So I think that's a good assumption for me, knowing that the type of content that I have is shorter form. And the assumption that I'm going to make about my eCPM, just as like an industry benchmark and some experience with customers, is $15 for my eCPM. And I plan to reach 80,000 hours watched on 3 of these fast companies, and I want to get there at month 12. I recognize that right now my companies, may not be as advanced in terms of audience size, so I'm going to set a reach goal of 80,000 hours watched at month 12 for these 3 platforms. And these are some of the answers that I want to know, and we'll reference back to those after we start to dig into the assumptions. Going back to the instructions, if you haven't already, definitely encourage you to make a copy of this sheet here. That is the best way that you're going to be able to edit these. So go ahead and make a copy, and then you'll have it. You can also download, as an Excel sheet if you'd prefer to work in Excel. But that's going to be the best way that you can edit alongside of me and work through that with me. All right, and then finally, I'm going to go ahead and go into the FAST model. Again, this is just the model that I've chosen based on what I know about my business. All right, so here we are, and you'll see, the assumptions that we had discussed here in yellow at the top. So again, starting month, I know it's already September. Reality is I'm probably not going to start or launch in September. So I'm going to want to back this up here. I think I could probably hit in October time frame. So I'm going to go ahead and start in October as my starting month. And again, just referencing back my key assumptions, I said that I was going to upload 50 hours of new content per month. So I'm going to go ahead and input that there. Great. And encoding allotment. So these 2 assumptions are, if you're working with a technology partner, or you have an agreement or an arrangement with a partner, and they include some type of allotment per month as part of your subscription service fee, you can go ahead and input those calculations. This is going to impact potential expenses that you may incur on delivery or any type of content encoding. I'm going to leave these set here. I do have a little bit of an allotment with my provider. And just going back to my key assumptions, so I have $15 as my eCPM. Input that here. I am going to have pre-rolls, so I'm going to keep that as a yes. So average mid-roll pods per hour. Again, going back to this calculation, every 7 to 9 minutes, I could probably have an ad break, a mid-roll ad break if my content is 30 minutes. So I'm going to assume I could probably have 5 mid-roll pods within that hour. And the average, or the ad per pod rather, I think industry benchmark, 15 seconds, 15-second ads, 3 to 4 seems pretty realistic for this market. So I'm going to go ahead and say I can fit 4 15-second ads and per pod. So my ad fill rate, here I am going to set this at 80%. Again, for the free ad supported, I'm probably going to let the programmatic take place on these. I may not be doing any direct ad sales, so my fill rate may be at 80%. Again, it's a pretty conservative fill rate for this fast ecosystem. And then I would say the hours watched area, these are some of the more key drivers to the revenue model. So at month one, and just important to note, not starting with 0, at month one, just taking into account, I probably will have a little bit of test data, but I'm not going to have numbers really with hours watched in month one. So I'm going to set this at 100. If I go back to my key assumptions, I wanted to reach 80,000 hours on these 3 platforms. So I'm going to go ahead and set this here. And you'll see that my audience growth rate updated based on my input there. So I don't necessarily need to go month over month and calculate this. I just know where I want to be at month 12, and then it'll kind of step me there based on where I want to land. And with the hours watched per month for linear, I may explore out on my own for one platform. It's possible that I might launch where I'm taking on some of the delivery costs and the server-side ad insertion costs. So, maybe just for fun, I'll say I'm going to go ahead and venture out on my own towards the end of my 12 months, and I will have launched one platform on my own. So I'll go ahead and assume this. All right. And now here I'm inputting my expenses. So we'll have a few variable costs, and then we'll have a fixed cost. Variable costs for per streaming hour, viewing hour to the consumer. I don't have a large audience right now. I'm not in a position probably to do any kind of bulk discounting based on my scale at this point. So I think, conservatively, I think 3 cents is probably where I will stay for the variable cost of delivery and streaming. And $2 per encoding. So this would be above if you had an allotment, which I've factored into play. I'm going to keep this at $2 per encoding hour over the allotment. And then as far as my fixed cost goes, I'm definitely going to leverage a technology partner for Intergalactic Sports Network to really help me manage the different MRSS feed distributions that I want to do and keep up with those specs. So I'm going to need a technology partner for that. I'm going to budget around $3,000 a month, $36,000 annually for that technology partner that can help me manage my multi-platform distribution strategy. And then lastly, and this is really, again, this expense is largely incurred for a linear distribution opportunity when you're not maintaining the server-side ad insertion requests. And a lot of times that's the case for MRSS feed distribution. You won't incur anything for this. But again, going back to, I'm just launching, I'm just getting off the ground. So I'm probably not in a position where I'm negotiating or committing myself to any lower rates based on volume. So again, I'll keep this at 70 cents per 1,000 server-side ad insertion requests that I get. All right, and that concludes all of my assumptions and inputs that I have done. Now, if I go visit back to the answers that I want to know, these are a few that I picked out just to help kind of guide the conversation. But again, once I pull up, I would love to hear from you guys if there are any answers that you want to know, from my model that I've built out. So let's start with how much revenue will I generate in 12 months? All right. So I'm going to go here to my break-even analysis, and I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I can see here with all of my assumptions and inputs, my revenue, I'm going to be right at here for my 12 months. And what are my monthly costs? So for this, I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive in. I'm going to go down into the detail view. And I can see my expenses here on a 12-month basis. I can see, that delivery and encoding, really isn't going to play a huge factor into my expenses. Ad requests, not so much either. So it's a lot to do with my technology partner. A lot of my costs are. So if I just take, the quick 6-month average here, my general costs are going to be around $3,200 a month in expenses. And how many months is it going to take me to break even with these conservative assumptions and, starting out my business? So I can see here, it's calculating that my break-even period is going to be at month 9. And I can, see which exact month that's going to happen. And it looks like here, in June is where I would break even. Or, sorry, rather, here is where I would break even. And that concludes some of the questions that I wanted to know. I'm curious to hear from everyone in the workshop who here has launched on any of these ad-supported streaming platforms. If you want to drop a note in the channel, I would love to hear if anyone has launched on any of these platforms or is actively planning to launch. Drop me a note. And also, throwing out another question is, if anyone has launched, is this in line with some of what you're seeing with your partner agreements and relationships that you have already? Good question, Neil. So yeah, I think the ones that I have really outlined here are pretty exhaustive, right? I think some of the common ones that may be missed or may be overlooked if you are jumping into this is if you are doing the ad insertion on your own or want to venture out that road, a lot of times the server-side ad insertion requests aren't necessarily factored into an overall model. So I think that, and then again, like encoding, how are you delivering the content or getting the content to that potential partner, factoring in, the various ways that you may have to upload and incur that cost for getting the content to the different providers. So I think the key expenses really that I outlined here, I would say are the primaries. I can't think of one that may be missing or overlooked. A question back to you, Neil. Is there a platform that you're evaluating, that you're in conversations with? Do you have any assumptions that you may want to model out together here? Happy to dig in a little bit more. Yeah, so good question here coming through. I would still say that, in the range for encoding that I've seen, is $2 to $4, and then there's just no encoding allotment at all. So, taking the encoding allotment down, and maybe having to bump this up to, more in the $4 range. But I would say generally, $2 to $4 per hour of encoding, and you just may not get anything baked in there per month. Cost of provisioning metadata and artwork. If you have an in-house designer or any type of design resources, this model doesn't necessarily factor in head count or that type of cost. This is really software subscription costs, but that's a good question. A lot of the customers that I'm working with, or that I've worked with in some of these projects, the artwork, it isn't super labor intensive. A lot of times that can be done in-house and not having to kind of contract that out. Metadata management, that's where kind of my software subscription, my technology partner comes into play. I can manage that metadata on a per video basis that I'm delivering, or even on a series or episode level. So that's really where I would want to lean in on my technology partner's capabilities for that. So ideally that's baked into my software subscription fee, is like some of the metadata work. Not necessarily. I don't have too much experience in global distribution, and kind of those general same assumptions. I would have to kind of do a little bit more research into what are more of the industry benchmarks there for non-US deliveries. Awesome. I think a lot of people are funneling in with questions already, but this is the high level that I wanted to go over, in terms of my workshop. So if anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to take those and make the next little bit of time just a Q&A session if anybody has any more questions for me. Yeah, I think for OTT, there are just a few differences in terms of assumptions, because this isn't a linear model, this isn't a 24/7. So you're factoring a little bit more into the average length of your content, which I kind of got into. I think your eCPM, if you're not doing a direct sale component and really managing that, which are some of the benefits to the OTT eCPM, your eCPM will likely be a little bit lower, having to attribute backfill and things like that. So I would say eCPM wise, for OTT, for start, and at the assumption of my audience size that I've been, working with here, your eCPM is likely going to be lower than that. but generally speaking, this OTT model is also freely available to work with and use after this workshop if you want to start inputting those metrics that you may have. Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions for me? Oh. Yeah, yep. Yes, I agree that, scale definitely brings that opportunity for sure. And as you scale up, that definitely helps. Again, if you do have the capability to do a mix where you are doing, 1, 2, 3 direct ad sales campaigns at any given time and supplementing with programmatic, that can help even out your fill rates and your CPM. For programmatic sources, though, in the FAST ecosystem, in the FAST model that we were going through, I've seen fairly good fill rates, but also pretty high CPMs compared to having to go and operate it in the OTT space. But I agree that some of the fill rates are still a little bit lower on the programmatic front on the OTT model specifically. And Jason, are you referring to the OTT model or the FAST model? I see. Okay. Yeah, I think interesting. Yeah, and a lot of times these FAST ecosystems too, like, I'm just trying to think like QoE, which is a huge benefit of like an OTT model where you have a little bit more insight into things like timeouts and header bidding, stuff like that. So yeah, you have limited visibility into like why they're timing out. For FAST, like which of the ad platforms are you using? Gotcha. Yeah, all good. Totally understand. No worries. In terms of some of the other publishers, that I try to model, my assumptions conservatively from what I'm familiar with working and just with the customers that I work with on a day-to-day basis. So, conservatively on the low side, on some of these FAST platforms, it's like $14 eCPM to high range $20 eCPM. So, picking the inline $15 is kind of where I got that metric from. So, it's kind of what I'm comfortable with and have seen be in line. So I picked my assumptions kind of based on what we're seeing among customer data as well as some industry benchmarks. So. And, again, too, like I did a bundle where I decided for my key assumptions that I was going to, really be launching on 3 you could model this out where you're just taking the eCPM assumption for just a single platform and targeting a certain hours watched here. So I could just go platform by platform instead of trying to lump it in all combined. So again, this is free to use, take away, and really play around with real data that you guys may have. And definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or reach out if you do have any other questions. I'm happy to chat with you guys, or offline or outside of this workshop. So definitely feel free to ask me any other questions. Yeah, I'm glad you guys really enjoyed the workshop, and hopefully this helps you in your everyday video business, and as you're projecting things out and advocating for your video business internally, to CFOs and your CEOs. So hopefully this is a useful tool for you guys to be able to use and take away. And Neil, if I think you're still in here, yeah, if you need help getting to market, and I know you mentioned you haven't launched yet, if you need help, definitely feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to help you out there. Great. If that's everything, I think we can go ahead and call it a little bit early. Give everyone some of their evening back. I know I'm on the East Coast, so gonna go ahead and cook some dinner here. But I appreciate everyone's time and attending. This was great, and thank you so much for all the really insightful questions. Definitely reach out if anything else comes to mind. And again, thank you so much. Take care.